And just as a few other people are trickling in, I'll just cover a couple of housekeeping sort of bits. So welcome again to those of you that have just arrived. The aim of today's session is to give you a feel of what community-led housing is all about. I'm going to start with a bit of an overview, and then we have some wonderful guest speakers who will talk to you about their journey into community-led housing and the organisations that they're a part of. And we're going to be speaking for about half an hour, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So as participants, you'll see that you are automatically muted, but if you could type your questions into the chat as we go along, and then we'll kind of have time for questions at the end, and I'll invite you kind of one by one to ask your questions, if that's all right, but we'll keep background noise to a minimum in the meantime. How are we looking in the waiting room, Barbara? Should we get started?
There's nobody in the waiting room at the moment, so we can get started.
Well, it's good to see so many of you here already. My name is Abby Ryan. I'm the Development Manager for West Midlands Urban Community Homes. We are a new organisation. We've been set up as a hub to support the development of community-led housing in the West Midlands. And the main thing that we do is to offer advice and support to community groups and organisations who want to develop their own homes. And the other side of what we do is about convening and influencing partners who can help to make it happen. So that's people like local authorities and housing associations. So without further ado, I've got some slides to show you, so I'm going to share my screen now. I'll try not to speak for too long because I'm keen for you to hear from Linda and Lima and Karen. I'll introduce them as we go along. Can you see that screen okay, yep. Barbara? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is community-led housing then? These are the core principles. It's about open and meaningful community participation and consent throughout the process. And community groups don't have to initiate the project or build the homes themselves, though many do. The community group or organisation owns, manages or stewards the homes in whichever way they choose. And finally, the homes are of true benefit for the community. That might be the local community or a specific group. And those benefits are clearly defined and legally protected in perpetuity with some sort of asset lock. Why do communities get involved? Community-led housing is really about people imagining the places that they really want to live in and then creating those aspirational homes and neighbourhoods themselves. So the result is about much more than just the houses. Of course, that's the first benefit, creating quality and affordable homes that are affordable for future generations as well, and that are designed to meet the needs of the community in terms of the space and the amenities that they provide. The second one here is about vibrant and resilient communities. We all know that we need that now more than ever. Lots of community housing projects include communal spaces to eat and socialise together, or to share amenities. And essentially, as organisations, they're democratic organisations, and they bring people together to make decisions about their homes and their communities and create connections between them and create mutual support within the community. The third here is about a strong and sustainable local economy. So by enabling people to continue to live locally, they can support local shops and businesses. Developing the schemes provide jobs and skills and uses local supply chains. And many community groups are keen that the design of their homes and the way that their community lives helps to tackle the climate emergency and fuel poverty for households as well. So community-led housing can take all sorts of shapes and forms. So I'm just going to share a few examples today to try and give you a bit of a flavour of the variety, really. So you can have new build projects. This photo on the left here is from Lilac in Leeds. They have 20 new build eco homes. It's a co-housing project, so they have a common house and shared facilities and green spaces. And this one is actually also the first mutual home ownership scheme, which is a form of collective home ownership. The next example is of bringing empty homes back into use. So this photo is from Canopy in Leeds. They provide decent accommodation for people that are homeless, and they do that by using houses that have been standing empty or derelict for years, and together with local volunteers and tenants doing the practical work to renovate the homes and bring them up to standard. You can also convert existing buildings like heritage, industrial or retail sites. And this illustrated map here is from the heart of Hastings CLT in Sussex. Now they formed as a response to fears about gentrification, really, and they wanted to use social and community investment to buy and renovate underused buildings for affordable homes. And they're now part of a 4-year programme supported by Historic England. This map is of the Trinity Triangle Heritage Action Zone, and they've got some funding to renovate the built environment in this heritage area over the next few years. Buying or receiving existing or new properties is another option as well. So this photo on the right is from Bradwell CLT in the Peak District, and they actually received 12 new build homes because the council had written into the neighbourhood plan that would be the contribution that the private developer would make to the local community as part of their larger development. Regeneration areas are another great opportunity for community-led housing. So this is Toxteth in Liverpool. It was ripe for demolition after years of underinvestment. But the local community wanted to protect the area, so they started gardening and painting boarded up housing. And eventually they formed Granby 4 Street CLT and bought a number of homes and completely transformed them. And finally, we see lots of mixed use developments, so that combine housing with workspace, community spaces and retail under the same roof. So this drawing here is from the plans of Sturchley Cooperative Development, and they are looking to build a number of flats with retail space underneath. They're a collective of housing and workers cooperatives, and their retail units are going to house local businesses like a bakery and a bike foundry and an art gallery. So in terms of the form that the community group or organisation can take, there are lots of different ways to do things. This is just a little snapshot of some different models, and I won't go into too much detail about these now, but it really just depends on what you want to achieve. And you can come and talk to us at MUCH about what it is you want to achieve, and we can help to advise you the best way to do it and the best model for your project. And finally, this is a really simplified journey of what creating community-led housing looks like. So we talk about these 5 different stages. From the group stage right at the start, that could be forming a new community group from a bunch of individuals, or it could be about maybe realigning the vision or objectives of an existing community organisation. The site bit is about finding your piece of land or your buildings or your empty homes. Plan is where all the detail comes in. You do the design work, your business planning, make sure you've got a viable project. You might need to get some planning permission. You then build, renovate, refurbish the homes, and the live stage is when you are living in and managing the homes. So there's no one correct way to do it, and there are no set rules. Often groups will kind of go back and forward between the different stages a little bit. But our advisors at MUCH are here to guide you through the process. And there are also various forms of funding at different stages available from government and elsewhere, and we can help to advise you on that too. So I'm gonna stop there. That was a very whistle stop on overview, but I want to hand over to our guest speakers now. The main message from me is wherever you are on your journey, if you're interested in community-led housing, then please get in touch with us at WMUCH. You can do that via our website. I've included my email address here, and I'll pop that into the chat for you as well. But without further ado, I will stop sharing this screen. I'm going to hand over to Linda, who is the resident chair at Whitton Lodge Community Association. Linda, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Where do I start? I suppose Whitton Lodge Community Association was born on a very cold November day in 1989, when over 900 households on our estate, including my own, had a letter through the door from the council saying that the 900 houses, some of them had been structurally surveyed and were found to be failing, and they were going to be demolished. That was when the crisis hit in Perry Common. It could have been that the redevelopment, which was a massive scale really, could have been rebuilt as council houses, which it couldn't because it was Margaret Thatcher who was in power and she wouldn't let them. So, but it could have been housing associations. The only tenure when we were living there was that you were either still a council tenant or somebody had bought through the right to buy. So the idea came from actually one of our solicitors now, that why couldn't the residents be in the lead? We were very cynical, of course, because there's only an apostrophe between resident-led and residents-led. So we listened. There'd been a community association formed 3 years earlier in Acox Green in Birmingham. And that was residents in the majority on the board. So we went and had a look. I have to say a residents association was formed overnight in Perry Common the day the letter came. I wasn't involved. I didn't really want to be. I didn't have much self-esteem and was very shy. I know people who know me now don't think that, but I've gained an awful lot out of being involved. So my journey started in 1991, so 2 years after the letter. I joined the Residents Association. We went to visit the Community Association in Stockfield, and it was, who met us off the coach were mostly mature ladies, ironically no men, but they were so proud of what they'd done. And we thought, well, if they can do it, we can do it. And so Whitton Lodge Community Association was formed in 1994. We're a charity. We're a non-registered housing provider. We chose not to be, partly because you've got to employ a chief officer on a high salary. And so we chose not to. We thought we could build another house for that. We have a board of 12, but 8 of us are resident directors. So it is truly resident-led. At the moment, we have built and manage almost 200 homes, because we don't build houses, we build homes. But we also do support services as well. So there's health and wellbeing, employment and skills. During the COVID crisis, we've stepped up. We've never closed our doors, and we'll help anybody who comes through the door of our offices. We have 26 staff, but we didn't have any staff until 2010. So we went for a long time with the directors running things, being advised. The benefits are the stewardship that goes with having residents on the board. You know when things go well, you know when things don't. We know each of our tenants by name, and they know us by name. It's almost gone back to the old days when you had a rent man coming round from the council. I'm not old enough to know that, by the way. But it is, because we've got a wonderful relationship with our tenants and support them in whatever problems they're having, really. And so we built new homes, including bungalows and an extra care scheme. But what we realised, there was lots of empty properties, as Abby had said. So at the moment, we're on to our 5th empty property, refurbishing it and letting it at affordable rent. We have got 3 market rent properties. The reason we do that is because we knew there was a need for a good landlord for market rents in Perry Common. Because you don't qualify for our affordable rent if you earn more than £23,000 jointly annually, and lots of people went just over that threshold, but were in very bad landlords, and so we've actually got 3 market rent properties too. Very little void, no turnaround really, because people want to stay, and the benefits we hope to the neighbourhood is that we care and residents care. So today, I know I've got to finish in a moment, Abby. So today, our staff and volunteers are clearing. We went for the world record at Christmas about the biggest holly wreath in the world, and they're clearing the holly away today. So, and we've got 40, socially distanced, we've got about 14 volunteers helping us as well. So it's been a wonderful journey. I cannot extol the virtues of community-led housing enough. If you get the right support, and that's where we come in as an organisation. I'm vice chair of West Midlands Urban Community Homes, and I'm very proud of that. So I will finish there.
Thank you, Linda. That's lovely. Now we will come to questions at the end of the session, but I'd like to hand over next to Lima Zindani, please, at 2020 Housing Co-op.
Hi, thanks, Abby. That was great to hear, Linda. It's very, very, very similar to the background that I actually come from myself. A little bit about 2020 Housing. They were established in 1982 in the Moseley and Balsall Heath area of Birmingham, and they was established by just a couple of single people. Obviously, they managed to get funding. They managed to get registered as a registered landlord. They went on then to build various 1-bedroom units. Then they decided to expand it to build family homes, which they did. And I've been lucky enough to be living in one of those family homes myself. My particular story is I joined 2020 in 1997, and I was on my own. I had 3 children, and I was living in a normal housing association property, where I was just looked at as an account, and I wasn't regarded as an individual. I hadn't heard nothing about cooperatives, if I'm totally honest, other than my brother actually lived in 2020 himself. So I used to sort of like get involved in some of their activities through my brother, and sort of like just push my way through just to get to know people, and sort of like hounding, asking them to give me a house basically. But unfortunately, those opportunities were very, very rare to come about. Luckily, a house came available and I was offered it. Not really understanding a lot about co-ops and how they actually run, I agreed to absolutely everything that they put to me, because all I wanted to do was just get my 3 children out of a cold, dingy 3-bedroom flat into a nice, decent, beautiful home. But I'm the kind of person I felt quite guilty. I thought, I've told them I'm going to attend these meetings, so I better go and attend one. So I attended a couple of meetings, and in fact, it's your chair on urban housing, Nick Bliss, who was my sort of like mentor from when I first got involved with 2020. So I joined a couple of meetings, and went over my head, didn't have a clue what people were really talking about. Then I decided to become a committee member, and that's where Nick Bliss took me under his wing and guided me through the processes, and that's when it opened up a can of worms. 22 years later, and I've never looked back. What I find with living within a co-op, it just doesn't provide a home, it does provide an opportunity. It provides a way out. You can learn various skills. And we have 49 units at the moment, 49 properties. We have very little turnover because people just don't want to move out of these properties. Standards are extremely high. The services that we provide is extremely high. We have currently a committee of 12, 13 people. It's all voluntary. We don't pay no staff. We take services from BCHS, that's Birmingham Housing Cooperative Services. They're a part of the Accord group. They provide some services for us, but generally as a whole, it's all volunteers. All of us will sit on these committees on a monthly basis, and we make the decisions on how housing is going to run, how our community is going to work. And, you know, the only downside for co-ops in the cities, like I said, Linda, you've been quite fortunate, is the development side of things, because land is extremely difficult to acquire. Properties are extremely difficult to come across, especially within the Borstal Heath Moseley area, because we like to keep the properties as in close proximity. So I find if you sort of tend to salt and pepper properties out of the area, you lose that community feel. People are less inclined to get involved on their particular co-op within their particular community. So yeah, for me, I mean, obviously I've learned so many skills working with 2020 that I actually, in fact, now I'm employed by Birmingham from BCHS, part of the Accord group, and I'm a community liaison officer and I work with 4 co-ops in Birmingham. So just by volunteering and just doing what I was doing, understanding about the communities, about housing, how all these things work from a voluntary capacity, it's then taken me on to acquire skills, which has enabled to give me employment. And I've worked within housing now for the past 22 years, as well as other jobs. But like I said, I've been employed by Birmingham BCHS for the past 3 years now. And that's all for the skills I've learned by living in community-led housing. You know, and I just want to reiterate about how you set up community-led housing. I always find that the most important thing is you have to get the correct people first. You know, some, you know, larger housing associations, they build up these houses. You know, I've been heavily involved in the community homes projects and, you know, been the speaker. You know, you can build up these beautiful homes and how you can do all those kind of things, but you have to get the right kind of people first. So it's just want to reiterate what was, you know, how you set up a community-led housing group. You've got to get the people there first, get the people in, you get the sites, you get the plans, get people involved from day dot. They're more likely to hold on to this community-based housing once they're involved from the first brick being laid. That's just my view, and that's just my housing background. So I don't want to bore you all anymore, but there you go, that's my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Lima. It's great to hear your story, and you're right that people are the foundation of all of this. And we talk about kind of 3 key ingredients: people, land, which you also talked about, and finance. And that's why we're here as a hub, to try and help bring all those things together for groups that are passionate about this. Thank you. We're going to hand over to Karen next. Karen, you might just need to unmute yourself.
It would be helpful. Okay then, so I'm Karen Williams from Bushbury Hill Estate Management Board in Wolverhampton. It's interesting listening to the 2 previous speakers. I think a lot of times community-led housing comes about because of a dissatisfaction. Something major is going to happen that prompts people to mobilise and want that change. I don't think you actually see the benefit until sometime later, and then you realise the added benefits it brings. So a little bit about Bushbury. We are quite large. We're based in Wolverhampton. We manage about 1,200 properties, homes, and we're currently developing new homes. 1,000 of the properties we manage are council-owned properties. Our board, like Linda's, 12 residents, and they are all residents, so it's truly resident-led. A couple of 100 housing association homes, and we bought a couple, literally 2, which were buybacks from previous right to buys on the estate, which we let at local LHA rents, so affordable rents. People on full benefits can afford them. And the reason Bushbury Hill came about is very similar to Linda. The tenants found a leaked letter actually from the local authority saying they were going to demolish the estate, and they didn't want it demolishing. So a tenants and residents group was formed. They were successful in bidding for £11 million estate action funding, as was then, and they give the properties a facelift rather than have them knocked down. They put external insulation, because a lot of them were non-traditionally built, new windows, bathrooms, kitchens, etc. So that's how it was born, that's how it started, and went live in 1998. Fast forward a few years, to when really, I suppose, the introduction of the welfare reform prior to the bedroom tax coming out, we did some work with our tenants because we knew people lived here a long time. I mean, with 1,200 properties, we average 11 voids a year. That is teeny tiny, given the size of the estate. And we interviewed these people and they didn't want to leave the estate. Unfortunately, 70% of our estate are 3-bedroom houses. So they were going to be hit with the bedroom tax, quite a lot of people. We had no 1-bedroom properties, only a handful of bungalows, etc. So we approached a local housing association to work in partnership with us. We said, we've got a derelict pub that had been boarded for years, that was an eyesore, which was such a beautiful building, it was a shame really. And would they fancy developing in our area? They would be owners, we would take over management, so they wouldn't have office costs to set up locally, etc. And we developed the pub into 10 1-bedroom flats, so we could support people who wanted to move into the right size properties. That's how we started development partnership. We've never built anything ourselves. We're not a big enough staff team. We don't have the expertise. What we do know, we know what type of house we're short of. We know what our community are asking us for, what they need, and we know that we can manage them well. So we've always developed in partnership. Currently, that scheme was finished along with 28 2-bedroom properties, because we had very few 2-bedroom properties, and also 2 4-bedroom properties because we didn't have many large properties. Since then, we've got a contract with the Developing Housing Association. They've asked us now to manage any property that they build within Wolverhampton city boundary. So that is kind of a separate thing. It's not kind of, the rest are within our community boundaries, so kind of different. We're working with the local authority. We're building 9 2-bedroom dormer bungalows on a piece of land, a wasteland that we had on the end of, towards the end of our boundaries. These are going to be Cat C properties. For those of you that are not aware, that means that they're fully adaptable for people with disability, mobility issues. So the dormer bungalows all have a lift to get them upstairs. They have kitchens that lift and rise so that if you're in a wheelchair, etc., you can use these properties. And the other good thing, I think Abby touched on this in one of her slides, they're going to be a passive house scheme. So they're highly energy efficient and they will deal with, you know, help people suffering with guilt, poverty, etc., etc. We've applied for the Community Housing Fund. We got some revenue funding to explore a new site, and we're looking at putting another 9 bungalows on there. So very much from saving our estate, we went along a journey to now growing our estate as the needs of the people who live there change. I suppose at times like this, I've really got to mention the community aspect of it. So a number of years ago, we set up a charitable arm. We've levered in nearly £2 million in investment over the last couple of years, and that's purely been for work in the community. So just a little instance, over COVID, we've been shopping for 200 food parcels a week, taking 80 odd meals out to people a week, phoning 250 people a week to make sure that they're okay. We've delivered crafts to children and families. We've done online bake-off competitions. We've done street bingo from our community minibus with a megaphone. That was great fun. And really tried to keep the community spirit going. We also, on a more practical side, we set up a £50,000 hardship fund. So residents that have suffered financial hardship because of COVID, be that be furloughed or lost a job, we will pay up to 4 weeks of their rent for them to help them out. So and we've also just actually, this is hot news because I only found out after Christmas, the council have approved a community asset transfer to us of a local community centre. We're going to call that the Innovation Hub. The people who've lost their jobs, we're looking to do some retraining workshops, CV writing skills, and eventually the long-term aim, a lot of our residents are carers, lots of the women that are in working care, they're poorly paid, I've got to say, and so our long-term aim is to set up a carers cooperative so that the women can be employed by, you know, a real living wage employer that values what they do and give the care to the community. I suppose, well, okay, I work for the EMV, so very different to Linda. I'm one of the high-paid execs now. I'm joking. I wish I was, but you know, I think it tells you something. I think it really is a rewarding job. I've had a golden rule, you know, when I'm, you know, knocking on a bit now, but since my early 20s, I only ever stayed in a job 3 years and then I moved on and progressed. I've been here 18 years. I think that tells you something. It really is very, very rewarding. It can be sad at times. You see sad things, but you work together as a community. We've got 38 volunteers out working on the estate. In fact, just before this meeting, one of them waved, "Oh, you're in the office," and give me a wave. It was out shopping for some of our vulnerable people. It really is a lovely place to work. And I have to say, if I didn't work here, I'd probably want to live here. But if I did both, I'd probably have somebody knocking up my door day and night. So that's a little bit about us. If any of you want to find out more or about more detail about the model or how we did it, I'm more than happy for you to pass my details on, or have a look on our website or Twitter. I believe we're even on Instagram now, but don't ask me about that because I don't understand that. But we're there somewhere if you want to have a look. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's great to hear how Bushbury's gone from strength to strength and just being able to grow over the years. And you know, back from those early days, it's been such a great opportunity to build wealth within and for the community that will benefit them for many years to come. So that's the end of us talking for now. We've got 10 minutes or so left of the session, so this is your opportunity to ask any questions. And we had Jane, you asked a question in the chat as a specific one for Linda, I think. Would you like to ask that question and add any others if you like? I'll unmute you. There you go.
Hi, yeah, I was just interested in, if you lost 900 homes, how many did you build and how many do you manage?
908 had to be demolished. We built 912. We didn't believe in high density, and we changed the road layouts. So some of the gardens are very characteristic or odd, whichever way you want to look at it. But it's giving it more character. What was the second part of the question? Sorry. How many do we manage?
It was yeah. How many do you manage?
Manage them all.
Okay.
Jane will know this. Jane Edwards. We commissioned, because we'd got no staff when we started, but we got homes and tenants. We paid Birmingham City Council to manage our properties and to repair our properties. After 9 months, we sacked them on the repairs because they weren't very good. But they stayed with us to manage our properties for about 10 years. And then we decided to build a staff team. So we took it in-house in 2014. So for 10 years, really, the council managed our properties. We are looking at working with, we floated the option with BMHT are the council building arm of Birmingham City Council now. And they have built some new properties in our estate, which are not well managed, to be truthful. And so we floated the idea of if they build any others just off in our area, but not on Perry Common because there's no land, could we possibly take on the management of them? And they haven't said no.
Okay. It's a good start. I was sorry to carry on, but I was just wondering, about how you manage the transition when you may not be a skilled group of people into managing a large amount of properties.
You mean the transition of management?
Yeah. So like, you know, you were then responsible. So you've paid the city council, but effectively have taken it over.
Yes. So the city council for 10 years did every aspect of housing management, including we always were there at the interviews for allocations because it mattered who was coming into our properties. But also we wanted to build a relationship with prospective tenants. So we met with them at least twice before they were even offered a property, so that they knew we were a slightly different landlord, because we do enforce our conditions of tenancy for their protection, but for others too, because why have them if you don't? So I think the beauty for me is that, but what we also do, Jane, is actually, if we see one of our tenants has actually got a most beautiful garden, we knock on their door and we tell them how wonderful their garden looks, because you only get either a phone call or a visit from the housing officer if you've done something wrong, but not if you've done something right. And so why wouldn't we say thank you for looking after our properties?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I can see that Jez has his hand up. So Jez, I've just asked you to unmute yourself there. Thank you.
There we go. Hi, folks.
Hi.
I'm Jez. Excuse me. We're based in Heath Town. We've been here since 2008. We're currently in contract with Wolverhampton City Council to self-build, community self-build homes. We've got a site on Inkerman, and we're due to start in September on site. We've gone through all the planning approvals and cabinet approval, and so we're quite close now. We're at technical stage towards that end of it. We don't manage after the event. The council takes on the properties, well, Wolverhampton Homes do, and we're looking a lot more for that in perpetuity ownership. We're not experienced. We're experienced in delivery of actually communities self-building their own properties, and that's what we've done. And we've developed a system build that they will fabricate, manufacture, and assemble their own homes. They're above passive house. They're off-grid. There's zero energy bills. They actually generate their own energy. So they're very high spec, and we're doing a community smart hub, so people anywhere in Wolverhampton can come and train to self-build their own homes. So we're the construction, build, design end, and what we're after, especially. And I have the Bushbury people. I've heard about you a lot, and I need to get in touch about what you're doing. And I think there's so what I'm trying to say is, has any of the group built community build, in particular specifying community build, or do they actually partner a developer and then manage after the event? That's my question, really.
We've not done self-build.
No.
At Bushbury, we tend to partner because our model is tenant management, with the tenants manage the estate. Also, although we have a staff team of 15, of which I head, we're employed by the tenants. We're not employed by the council or anywhere else. The tenants employ us, and that's who we're accountable to. But in terms of your question, no, because our income is generated via management allowances from both the housing association and the local authority, and we have a contract with them to deliver certain things, so repairs, rent collection, managing arrears, ASB. We don't have the funds to build, so it has to be a partnership for us. You know, we have got surplus, but our surplus is ring-fenced more to supporting the community and not to, if you like, ownership of capital assets or building houses that we own. So our model is always been in partnership. We've got somebody to build, we manage them. The benefit of that from us, we get economies of scale when we're delivering services or running capital programs, but also they're then part of our community. They can be involved in things, you know, we don't differentiate if it's an owner occupier, if it's a council tenant, if it's a housing association tenant. You know, for example, every one of our tenants with school age children, primary school this year, last 2 years, we've bought a complete set of new school uniform and underwear because we've got quite high levels of poverty in the area. And it just, I'm waffling, I'm going off your original point, but no, we have always partnered. We've never built ourselves. We've never had the funding to be able to do that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the funding comes from Housing Revenue Fund from the council. So we're under contract with the council to deliver. It's just that we're not developer-led, it's community-led. So I know this sounds a bit weird, but the community are actually manufacturing, designing, manufacture, and deliver the self-build, and the council pay for that. It's under that regime. So that's our contracts. And what I'm trying to say, so what I'm trying to say is, it's not the funding that I'm particularly questioning. It's do you do it, or do you have to then go and, which is the answer? Thank you.
Jez, can I just come in here? It might be that some of our board members would be able to give you more information on that, and go through Abby and see if any of our board members have experience in that.
Yeah, it's certainly possible to kind of do a combination of any of these models. And Jez, it sounds like if you're kind of self-building at the moment and thinking about ways that you can build in that kind of long-term community stewardship into like the way that the homes are run and managed after they're built, then that's something that we can help think through kind of what that
that's
means.
Exactly it. Yeah, we stop when we hand the keys over. That's our job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can kind of help to advise both on like the community governance of a project at any stage, and the development side, whether that's self-build or working with a partner who can build homes for you.
Thank you.
We're coming up to 1:15 now. Does anyone have a final kind of question? You can raise a physical or a virtual hand. I can see you all on my screen. Jane.
Yeah, I don't know yet whether anybody saw my questions. I don't know how that works, so it doesn't matter. Is anyone else here from Solihull? No. No. Predominantly Birmingham, Wolverhampton.
We've got a few Coventry as well, I think. I can double check. Some people are off camera, Jane, so I can check if there's anyone else Solihull based afterwards.
Okay. I just wondered, because as you know, Abigail, we're sort of challenging SMBC because they are currently developing their local plan, and community-led homes is not mentioned therein, and we would press, I suppose, for anybody in Solihull to, it's too late to make representations to the examiner now, but to press Solihull to include community-led homes within the, you know, any future developments. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. And that reminds me actually to mention, so at MUCH we work primarily across the 7 constituent authorities of the West Midlands, so from Coventry, Solihull, Birmingham, and into across the Black Country. And one thing that we're hoping to do a bit later in the spring is to kind of convene an event in each local authority area that we work with, and get the local authority along, maybe get some of the housing associations who could be potential partners and are quite active in the area, and invite community groups, and just try to get people talking and like see what ideas come out of that, and try to get some projects moving along. So yeah, do get in touch if you're interested to stay involved in the conversation, and hopefully we'll have more opportunities for you to meet others who are interested in your area as well soon. Unless we have any other kind of final burning questions, I'm going to close the session there. I think.
Abby, somebody asked whether your presentation could be sent to people rather than them write things down.
Yes, thanks, Linda. So we've recorded the session, and I will I'll put a link to the recording and to the slides up on our website soon, and I'll send an email out to those of you who've attended to let you know when that's available. And thank you very much to Linda and Lima and Karen for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to hear your stories, and a really lovely start to the new year, actually. A bit of hope and inspiration for us to look forward to. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.